You may recall that last fall I inspected a 2011 C6 Grand Sport with 58,000 miles for a potential buyer located several states away. Unfortunately, that inspection turned up several concerns, of which a few of them could potentially be fairly serious. The first red flag was that the car was relatively dirty, which in and of itself was not necessarily a deal breaker, but it made my spidey sense tingle, wondering just how diligent that dealership was, making sure that they inspected, repaired, and ensured that the more expensive vehicles for sale on their lot were truly ready to impress potential buyers. But then my eyes were drawn to a couple of more flagrant warts that I found hard to excuse. One of the features of the C6 Grand Sport is that it has the same beautiful and massive brakes that the C6 Z06 has, and unfortunately this car has been sitting outside for quite some time, and furthermore somebody had put rotors on the front that do not have painted rotor hats, and the rusted rotor hats stick out like a sore thumb behind the beautiful C6 rims. The only other exterior defects that I noted were a crack in the passenger side headlight assembly that, in my opinion, should be fixed before a dealer offers a car of this caliber for sale, a scratch in the gas cap door that would likely have easily buffed out, and some fading of the molding around the front tires that I think could have easily been restored by a more diligent seller. Then a much more concerning issue jumped out at me from the battery. It's obviously been leaking, and leaking is especially bad in C5 and C6 Corvettes because the engine computer is down low and behind the battery, so if enough battery acid leaks over time, it can drip onto the engine's computer and main wiring harness, and this has the potential to cause serious problems. Another concerning and potentially expensive issue occurred during the test drive, having to do with the active handling and traction control system. When I activated the button, I found that it was very lazy and slow to respond to trigger the various driving modes, and while I was able to get it into all of the various modes, it was a little concerning that it seemed lazy and a bit inconsistent in response to pressing the button. And finally, I noted one more potential electrical gremlin when the test drive was over, and I tried to shut off the engine. I had to hit the button multiple times to get it to respond and shut the engine off. At the end of the day, that potential buyer ended up walking away from that Grand Sport, but he did find another Grand Sport to purchase just a week or so later. So with that less than stellar inspection of the 2011 Grand Sport from last fall in the back of my mind, I had much higher hopes for the 2012 Grand Sport I was about to inspect, and here's how it went. This 2012 Grand Sport is silver with a black convertible top, so why not start out by making sure the top opens fully and then closes as it should. Looks good. You can put it back if you want. That's some pretty nifty engineering, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, it's not like going to Mars, but it's still pretty cool. This particular car only has 35,000 miles on the clock, and it shows. No blemishes to speak of on the driver's side, and the rear of the car looks fantastic as well. Look a little closer, and this specimen has the optional dual mode exhaust, which is a great option. Things are no different on the passenger side, again with the paint looking like about a 9.5 out of 10, and the front fascia looks great as well, with just a few blemishes as is to be expected from hitting fine pebbles on the road. The headlights are in like new condition, as are the front running lights, which further supports my conclusion that this Grand Sport has not spent a lot of time sitting in the sun. The rims and tires look great, with 90% plus of the tread left on all of the tires. The only deficiency is that one of the tires in the rear doesn't exactly match the other, as it had to be replaced 1 year later, and the same exact Michelin was no longer available. The battery is 2 years old, and it's important to get a good look at the area directly around it, looking for any signs of current or past acid leaks. The car's computer and sensitive wiring are directly below, so I always recommend the use of an AGM battery. This one looks to be okay, and I don't see any evidence of leakage from above. The engine bay looks to be stock, and it's consistent with having about 35,000 miles on the vehicle. The oil was full on the dipstick and appeared to be clean. Now unfortunately we don't have a lift handy to get a good look underneath at the front and rear frame rails looking for any sort of collision or accident damage, but that's okay. All it takes is a modern cell phone with a good flash and a piece of wood, and you can slide it underneath the front and the rear and the sides and get a pretty good glimpse at those critical frame rail areas. Also, as I've said before in other videos, even though we're in Minnesota and the Rust Belt, virtually nobody drives these cars in the winter weather, so I fully expect the underneath to be rust-free and look as though it came from northern Texas. Here's a look at the front passenger side frame area, which includes part of the cradle, anti-sway bar, and part of the frame rail and curb bar. I don't see any signs of damage evident. The driver's side frame area appears to be normal as well, which is obviously a good thing. Moving to the back, we get a very good shot of the driver's side rear frame area. And finally, the passenger side rear frame area appears to be completely normal as well. Now let's take a quick look at the frame underneath the battery area on the C6, because if acid's been leaking, you'll usually see some corrosion on the frame right here, and this one is clean. In preparation for the test drive, I touched the engine block with my hand and confirmed it was cold, and upon startup it had a cold oil pressure of 38 pounds per square inch, which is pretty decent, and it was very quiet for an LS engine. I then took the car for a test drive with the owner and tested every option I could, including the air conditioning, cruise control, looked through the gauges, the power seats, etc., and everything seemed to work as it should. With the owner's permission, I gave the engine a couple of test wide open throttle hits. The first one was from a standing start, and the second one was so as to mimic passing another car. The mighty LS3 engine seemed as powerful as it should, and the transmission shifted quickly and firmly as well. It's also very important at the tail end of the test drive to check all of the different parameters you can in the gauge cluster, and all of the different temperatures were in range, as was the oil pressure. And I do make a note, with the engine oil hot, the idle oil pressure was 26 pounds per square inch. During the test drive, I also checked out the brakes, and they do stop the vehicle very well, as they should, with no signs of pedal pulsing and no noticeable squeaks or rattles. That having been said, taking a look at the rotors, they clearly are showing some signs of wear. Although I checked both the inside and outside faces, there's no signs of gouging or anything like that, but based upon the wear, I fully expect the pads and rotors will need to be changed in the not so distant future. Oddly enough, the only thing on this particular C6 that I found that perhaps wasn't working as it should was the heated passenger seat didn't seem to be getting as hot as I expected it to, and perhaps that's from lack of use because, like I said, nobody tends to drive these cars in cold weather. Before the test drive, using my scan tool, I checked the computer and all of the modules for diagnostic trouble codes and found a couple of historical codes which, with the owner's permission, I cleared. And then after the test drive, I rescanned everything and found no current codes had been set. Moving to the interior, we are welcomed by the Corvette logo. Both of the door panels are in excellent condition and essentially look new. The seats are the later year improved version of the C6 seats with airbags and of course more support, and the all-important driver's side bolster shows minimal signs of wear, which isn't always the case. The carpets are in great shape with just a little bit of cleaning needed on the driver's side. The dash and the radio appear to be completely stock, and from my testing, everything appears to function as it should. After the inspection, I provided my report and I had a brief conversation with the potential buyer. I gave this car a solid 9+ out of 10, and a few days later, he and the seller agreed on a price, and the car is now sitting in the new buyer's garage. Now, some of you are probably wondering how much he or she paid for the car, and I don't know exactly what that number is, but I did pull a report of current listings from cars.com for 2012 Grand Sports, and here's what the asking prices are across America. If you need a C5 or C6 inspected somewhere here in the southern half of Minnesota, hit me up by email and perhaps we can work something out. If you enjoyed the video, please tap the thumbs up below, consider subscribing, and most of all, thanks for watching.